Hello, you're watching TVP World Talks. I'm Jonasz Rewiński. Another day, another broken truce. Despite agreeing to Trump's ceasefire proposal earlier on, Russia again killed civilians in Ukraine in the latest wave of attacks. The idea for a temporary cessation of hostilities was floated just as the Moscow regime scaled down its annual military parade, due to fears that Ukrainian long-range strikes could provide a humiliating backdrop to the festivities. Yet, despite Ukraine recently extending its reach and regaining initiative, Putin made optimistic comments about the war coming to a close, possibly with the help of one of his slightly forgotten European allies. Joining us here today to discuss the latest developments in Ukraine is Bohdan Nahaylo, editor-in-chief at the Kyiv Post. And welcome to TVP World.
Greetings, everybody.
Right, so let's get the suspense out of the way. The slightly forgotten ally I'm talking about is supposed to be none other than Gerhard Schröder, former German Chancellor. What do you make of that? Do you think that this is going to help in potential talks with the European Union?
No, I think Putin was being cynical. I don't think we should take that at face value. I think he threw that out basically to say, I'm prepared to deal with that type of European that was always in my pocket, as it were, not just politically, but financially. So I wouldn't take it too seriously.
But Putin was really optimistic about the war somehow coming to a close. Are there any indicators of that happening anytime soon, at least on Moscow's terms?
Not really. I think, Putin was just playing with words yesterday. He's been under immense pressure, humiliated, as it were, by having to scale down the Victory Day parade, using Trump's phone call to him, asking him for a ceasefire as an excuse to pretend to agree to a ceasefire, so as to buy time, to buy the hour and a half for his parade. But again, as you've mentioned, they didn't take the ceasefire seriously. It was supposed to be for 3 days, and immediately, almost hours after the parade finished, the Russians were back to bombarding the Ukrainians. Look, if you look carefully at what he said, he was being pressed by the media. Putin said, yes, I'm prepared to talk with Zelensky, let him come to Moscow. But then I would consider meeting him in a third country. But then again, only if the conditions are already agreed to for the war. He didn't hint at any concessions. I mean, the position of Russia remains firm, intransigent. Ukraine gives up territory. It probably would be expected to drop the idea of NATO membership anywhere in the near future. Possibly some agreement on EU membership, but essentially peace on the aggressor's terms.
Looking at the way the parade played out, do you think that this is one of possible signs that Russia's economy and its war machine could actually be showing signs of strain, following a couple of years when many economists were saying, wow, this is the sort of wonder of resilience, that Russia, despite sanctions, is still marching on? Could this march be coming to a grinding halt now?
Well, we know that there are serious economic problems and challenges that the Kremlin is facing, but I don't think that was the major factor for scaling down the parade. I think there was genuine fear that the Ukrainians are now capable of hitting well into Russia, deep into Russia, and they have been doing that consistently now for months, destroying key energy hubs and military factories, etc. You notice that Zelensky, in his reply, in his gracious acceptance of the Trump's mediation to arrange the ceasefire, he gave the, shall we say, the coordinates of Red Square, making it very clear that the Ukrainians know where to hit in Red Square in particular, and the Kremlin. So, that wasn't lost also on the Russians. I wonder what will happen today, because I don't think the Ukrainians are going to simply sit back and allow the Russians to resume their bombardment. Clearly some kind of retaliatory action is to be expected, but probably they will wait for the end of that truce period as agreed via Trump.
Do you think that Russia, in its current state, is in a condition to contemplate military action against another country, especially since the war against Ukraine has not ended yet? With recently confirmed losses of personnel, not to mention the economic situation. Do you think that it really could do so?
You never know with Russia, because look, Putin is literally fighting for his life now. There are all sorts of signs and rumors about discontent at the very top, not only in the military and the security apparatus, but amongst the oligarchs and the richest people. 4.5 years later, they're nowhere near to achieving the goals of the limited action major war, as it became, that Putin announced. Putin has to deal with Iran. There's the latest news is that Russia is apparently being asked to supply a huge amount of drones to Iran, the other way around, so as to prevent military actions, aerial actions by Israel and the US. It's not doing well in Africa at all. China didn't show up for the parade, very humiliating. They had to just rely on North Korean soldiers marching past. So not good times, and perhaps not the time to be thinking of a new wave of aggression against somebody. But again, you never know. Tyrants, when they are in desperation, can do things that are, shall we say, unexpected.
Well, let's talk about the way Ukraine has actually grabbed the spotlight once again with technological advances. You already mentioned long-range strikes. Could this actually perhaps also be a blueprint for European deterrence? We've already heard that there are problems with US-made weapons. Some of the deliveries could be postponed. There is going to be a delay with the plans to station Tomahawk missiles. Probably won't be stationed in Germany at all, possibly some other country in the future. Great amount of uncertainty there. So do you think Europe is likely to turn to Ukraine and look at these and other technological advancements that Ukraine is introducing to the battlefield?
Well, I think you should pose your question in the past tense, because it's already done that. And we've seen in recent months various deals made with the Germans, for example, with the Brits, on co-producing the types of weapons that you're referring to. So I think that process is underway. The big issue is the tempo, at what pace can these deals and this co-production be implemented.
So Ukraine essentially becoming a security donor instead of being the recipient of aid, right?
Yes, I mean, obviously it needs that aid badly. It can't do it by itself. However remarkable its creativity and progress has been. And of course, it needs not only arms, it needs the financial backing to stay afloat economically. So it can't do it by itself. It can hold firm for the foreseeable future, but it needs that very strong support from the major players and its alliance of concerned or committed, shall we say, among whom Poland is a key player as well.
So what do you think is the key lesson to be learned from the Ukrainian military? Is it about scalability of solutions, affordability as well, the capacity to adjust quickly, avoiding bureaucratic hurdles?
All those things, but I think the most important is don't be dependent on allies which prove themselves unreliable. I think for too long the Ukrainians had hoped that Trump would change his attitude and his, let me do business first with Putin, and then let's see, what kind of what I can offer you in return as consolation. So I think standing firm, being creative, moving forward, hoping that allies match you in terms of the speed in which things need to be done and the intensity of the commitment, but moving forward and not waiting.
So one quick question. Trump's recent comments about Ukraine seem to indicate at least a slight shift in his attitude. Do you think that this is likely to be an indication of something more, perhaps?
Well, I think Trump is very frustrated himself, because it's not just that the Russians haven't given way or budged in terms of meeting Ukraine, if not halfway, then a third of the way, a quarter of the way along towards a peace settlement. He's got to contend with the fact that Iran remains Russia's ally. Though the Russians let Iran down badly, they seem to have, at least in their rhetoric, to reaffirm their support for Iran. And of course, if they are continuing to supply weapons the other way around, drones going to Iran as opposed to going from Iran to Moscow, that's not going to please him, and particularly his critics who will point that out to him. But again, we don't know what holds Trump back. What are the cards that Moscow has on him, or photos or videos or money or whatever it is? Yes, you know, he can say things and express his disappointment, but expecting him to change fundamentally at this stage, I think is not really on.
Bohdan Nahaylo was our guest today here on TVP World. Thank you very much for joining us.
My pleasure.
And I'm Jonasz Rewiński. Thank you for watching. Please stay with us here on TVP World for more latest news, updates and commentary.